Minister, I want to ask you generally about the plans to increase childcare places in the country and to make a statement.
Touched on some of the matter already in terms of Deputy Staunton's question, but my department is progressing a range of actions to ensure the supply of early learning and childcare meets demand, with work in this area being led by a new supply management unit that I established earlier this year within my department. And a key part of the supply management unit remit is to develop a planning function for monitoring, analysing and forecasting of the supply and demand, very much similar to the forward planning unit that exists within the Department of Education. The unit will also oversee the administration of new capital investment under the National Development Plan, with 2 strands of funding rolling out this year and next under the Building Blocks Capacity Grant. As well as this, the unit is engaging with the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage to progress the updating of the 2001 planning guidelines for local authorities on early learning and childcare settings. In addition to this work of supply management, other work across my department will increase places. Core funding, which began in 2022, has proved to be effective in expanding capacity. So year 2 of the scheme provided for a capacity growth of 3% across the whole childcare network, which has materialised. And again, for year 3, which will kickstart from September of this year, there's also funding to allow for a 3% growth in overall capacity. As I mentioned, speaking to Deputy Staunton, we have been engaging with the Department of Education in terms of the guidance they give to schools in terms of the use of school buildings, and I'd say particularly, as I said earlier on, for after school and the potential for use there, and again providing a capacity in an area where many parents want additional services. The National Action Plan for Childminding is designed to allow the registration of childminders and parents who are using their services to benefit from the NCS, the National Childcare Scheme, and work is ongoing at that at the moment. And the primary focus of the Building Blocks Capacity Grant Scheme, which is funded under the NDP, is to enhance capacity among the 1 to 3 year old age group, where we see some of the biggest pressures existing right now.
Thank you, Deputy Smith.
It would be lovely to hear exactly the amount of figures of places that you plan to increase it by, but it sounds like you have a plan. But to me, and I would say to all the childminding organisations out there, it's very complex and very cumbersome. But you are aware that in the Dublin area, almost 60% of providers have reported that they have severe waiting lists for childcare places. Now, I would say that after housing, and it's probably statistically borne out, that this is one of the biggest political issues for most people who have children, and often both parents have to work in order to afford the childcare. But then if they can't get the places, they can't keep the work, and if they can't keep the work, often their rent and their mortgage is impacted, and God knows what else. And certainly in my own constituency of Dublin South Central, parents are regularly calling me, writing to me and begging me for help, and I often get on the blower then to try and get places for them with no success. So how are we going to address this problem?
Thank you, Minister.
Thanks very much, Deputy. So I suppose when I started in this role, as I said, costs for parents was the big challenge. Lack of pay for staff was the big challenge. Sustainability for providers is the big challenge. We've been able to do a significant amount in all those 3 areas. Now capacity is the big challenge, and I recognise that, and we do have a plan. It's better, it's a dedicated unit within my department looking at the national situation and then putting in place the various measures to support that. Some of that is capital money up front. We've €18 million this year in capital funding. We've more in 2025 to grow out the capital schemes to support people, be they private providers or community providers, in terms of increasing capacity. We're looking to change the planning regulations to ensure that where a planning permission is granted for an early years service, it's actually delivered. I'm sure you can cite examples in your constituency where it doesn't happen. I can see some in mine as well. And also, and I know I'm coming up against time, but the payment of staff is really important in terms of staff being available to allow providers use the existing capacity that they have, because if they don't have staff, they don't have ratios, and they may actually not be able to use all the rooms in a service.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy.
Yeah, I'm aware of all the problems that individual childcare centres have in order to increase capacity and keep going, and I'm also aware of how I believe poorly paid and treated a lot of childcare workers are, albeit with improvements that are taking place. But the last woman I had on to me about this, which is why I submitted the question, was literally stressed out of her mind about the fact that she could not get a place for her 17-month-old child. And it looks like she's going to have to give up her job. And she's a relatively young woman. She wants to keep her career. We want them, women and men, out working in the workforce. We're short of workers. I think the whole of society benefits from that. But she's going to have to give up her job. No places at all available in Dublin South Central for one child to be minded. So I think this is pretty disgraceful. And if we can't increase the capacity with a sense of urgency, then I think we should look at the system by which we're trying to do it.
Thank you,
Very much.
Deputy
Well,
Minister.
can I say just to Deputy Smith first, there's a very real sense of urgency on the issue of capacity. As I say, it is now the big challenge. The big challenge has moved from affordability because we and I as Minister acted over a number of budgets to deal with the affordability issue, and we've made significant progress there. So we have a plan, we've got capital funding, and we've got engagement with other departments in terms of removing the mechanisms. I absolutely, the situation where someone has to give up work potentially because they can't access childcare. That's a really serious situation, and that's what we're trying to work to address in terms of additional capacity. One of the challenges of reducing the price meant that more people are taking up childcare, and that's put greater pressure on the system, and we have to act to respond to that.